Hey guys, today I want to talk about easy chapter books for kids. I am doing this video in collab with Abby from Bear Hill Family. I love that I've been able to do a lot of collab videos this month. I don't think I've ever done them before on my channel before this month, and then I just had a bunch of them. Anyway, so go ahead and check out Abby's video. I know that we are going to be sharing a few books that are similar, but there will also be some different ones. If you haven't checked her out before, she has a lot of homeschool stuff, some family stuff, and I would love it if you would just head over there after you watch this video and subscribe to her channel. Now, I think I have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. I have 10 books here that we own as far as easy reader chapter books go, and then I'm going to mention a few that my kids have read that we have just gotten out from the library. When it comes to easy reader chapter books, there's a big variety here. Like, some of them are like quite easy, and then some of them get to be quite a bit harder. It depends on the child for how long this stage will be. My daughter kind of like flew through this stage of reading very quickly, and for my son it's been a longer stage. I actually thought about having my son here to film this video with me. I believe Abby was filming hers with one of her kids, but he doesn't love to be on video. Not that he doesn't love to be on video, he just prefers to do other things. I am going to do a video sharing some of his like absolute favorite books in the next while. Those are like more like middle grade because he does a lot of audiobooks. So I decided to do this on my own, and I'll kind of just talk a little bit about these books, I guess. Okay, so this is definitely in no particular order. As far as easy chapter books goes, there's sometimes I don't know how to explain this, not the most interesting for adults, maybe is how I should say it. So this is Flat Stanley, his original adventure. I actually haven't read this one, but I read the African one to the kids when we were doing the Africa unit study, and you know, like, I feel like Flat Stanley, it's not necessarily something that you want to read as an adult because it's very surfacey and whatever, but it's great for kids because it's got like big font, lots of pictures. So Flat Stanley became flat when a bulletin board fell on him some time ago, and so then he gets to go on all of these adventures. And this one is just like the first book, but then they also have an adventure series that has to do with like different places that they visit and stuff. And even though I'm not like a huge fan of Flat Stanley as an adult, my kids have really enjoyed reading these books. Okay, this has probably been my son's, I would say this would be his favorite series when it comes to this level of chapter books, and that is A to Z Mysteries. There's also calendar mysteries. So A to Z Mysteries, there's a mystery for every letter of the alphabet. We just happen to own the Jaguar's Jewel. This was a library book that was weeded and we bought, and it was very well loved. It is just falling apart, and my son has just loved these. They're very, you know, middle grade easy mysteries. Not middle grade, but like younger than middle grade. And we follow a bunch of kids, Dink, Josh, and Ruth Rose, and my kids reference these books all the time. Both of them have really enjoyed them, but my son especially. There's like some things in here that just make him giggle, and the funnier a book can be, the more interested he is in it, so that sounds good to me. Okay, and then I would be like totally remiss, I think, if I didn't mention this series. Magic Treehouse. We own most of the books. My kids have read most of the books. Well, my daughter's probably read all of them. My son, not quite yet. So this is a young series where the kids have a magic treehouse and they go back in time, so they learn lots of history. My daughter like knows more history than I do, and I'm pretty sure 90% of that is due to the Magic Treehouse series. I kind of wish they would have had these when I was growing up because I feel like I would be smarter now. And so these ones have quite a repetitious kind of like general idea. So the first chapter they kind of like go into the treehouse and see what adventure awaits, and then, you know, they follow the adventure for a few chapters, and then they come home for the last chapter. It's very formulaic that way, but I think that's really good for kids. They know what to expect, and there's not a ton of words per chapter, so it's not too overwhelming. And this has definitely been a favorite series in our house. Out of all the easy readers, we own the most of these. Okay, and this one is definitely more of a surfacey, even easier reading level than the ones I've shared so far. This is The Adventures of Sophie Mouse. So this is a fairly girly series. We happen to own book 11, The Mouse House. It's just about a mouse named Sophie and then all these different little things that happen in her life. lots of pictures once again. These chapters are very short. This is really good for like when you're just introducing chapter books to kids. My son even actually did read this one because we didn't have a ton that were kind of like at this level. And so he went and he actually read this one as well. And he doesn't mind reading like girly books, it's fine. Yeah, so this isn't like the most riveting of series, but it's a really good level for kids that are just being introduced to chapter books. Maybe I'll actually share one of the books that we got from the library here. It's kind of not even really a chapter book. Like it's a chapter book because there's chapters, but it's kind of like even before you get to this level is the Princess in Black series. My daughter really enjoyed that. It's about a girl who's a like princess with like, you know, like the stereotypical princess, but secretly she has a place where she changes into this black outfit and she goes and fights various creatures in her kingdom. And that was kind of fun just to kind of have a little bit of a different spin on the stereotypical princess book for kids. And they were really short chapters. I want to say they were like 5 pages, but like only a couple lines per page, and then lots of pictures, and the pictures were really fun. And the series was just starting when my daughter was kind of like reading at that reading level, and since then I know they've added more books, so that would be one to check out if your kids aren't like quite ready for chapter books yet. And then this series is another silly series that my son has really loved, the Bailey School Kids. This one is a junior chapter book, so I believe the Bailey School Kids would be a good like next step, of course, but these junior ones are a really good one to start with. This is pretty close to the same level as Sophie Most, I think. This one is Cupid Does Eat Chocolate Covered Snails, and there's all sorts of different silly books in the series, and they're funny. They have a lot of funny pictures, and it just kept my son's interest. And the chapters, I feel like he flew through these faster than he has a lot of other books, so that really encouraged his reading and made him want to continue picking up more books. We also got a few in this series from the library as well, so that he could continue going with just, you know, taking advantage of his interest in the series just to read more and get his fluency flowing. Okay, this one is a bit of a higher reading level, but I feel like the Boxcar Children belongs here. The words are smaller, there are still pictures. I think there's more chapters probably, or else the chapters are longer. But the Boxcar Children is a pretty good like first real chapter book for kids, and it's an entire series, and I feel like when you have a series, then kids can get attached to characters, and if they like the characters, then, you know, they can keep following them along throughout the books. Of course, the first book is the best because it's about the kids living in a boxcar, and I remember reading this as a kid and like wanting to like rough it and have my own little garden patch and eat food that I've grown and stuff. And so my kids have both really loved this series. In the same vein as the Magic Treehouse series, there's also the Canadian Flyer Adventures. This is the same general idea, but this is like Canadian history, and so I'm not sure if you can get this if you're in the US, probably, but it might be harder to find. I do think that the reading level is maybe a little bit easier. The page count on these, it's like about 80 pages, and the Magic Treehouse is, oh, it's actually less. This is like 65. I feel like this feels smaller. So there's a variety in this series as well. This one's about the gold rush, and we follow a couple of kids who have a magic flyer. So it's like the radio flyer wagon, but I think this one's a sled to make it Canadian. So same general idea, going back in history and learning about different parts of history, but doing it in a way that is easy for kids to read and to follow along and learn about history. Here's a nice retro series for you. Encyclopedia Brown. This one is Boy Detective, which I believe is the first, yeah, this is the first book in a series. And Encyclopedia Brown solves mysteries. There's a bit of a theme here. My kids, at least my son for sure, he loves mystery books, so I tried to find him a bunch of easy reader books that have mysteries in them, and this one has pictures, and the font is like, I'd say middle of the road as far as easy readers go. And I think he's only read a couple books in this series. Actually, he hasn't like loved it like he did something like the A to Z Mysteries or the Calendar Mysteries, but he enjoyed this one quite a bit. Next up is the Third Grade Detectives. I just found this book, I think, at a thrift store randomly. I'd never heard of the series before. So we have the clue of the left-handed envelope, but also on the back is the puzzle of the pretty pink handkerchief. So this is a 2-in-1 book. So the book is only about 60 pages per story, and they have a lot of puzzles throughout the stories, and there's like pictures to go along with it. My kids really enjoyed like actually trying to solve the mystery as they read through these books. And they were a lot of fun to read either together or on their own. And I wish I would have looked for more in this series. Actually, my son would probably enjoy more. It's just not a series I had really ever heard of other than this one time when I randomly came across it at the thrift store. Okay, and then the last book that I own, but not the last series that I'm going to talk about, is The Littles. This is like a really retro version that I found thrifting one time. Yeah, 1968. So the Littles are just like little people that live in a regular person's house, but like in their attic or something. And this was the first series that my son like started reading on his own. So personally, I'm not a huge fan of the Littles. I don't know, it's just not my kind of thing, I guess. I'm more like maybe the mystery kind of story myself. But he was so proud reading this story, and it just was such a boost of confidence for him. So The Littles will always hold a special place in our heart. Okay, and then a series that my daughter really enjoyed is called Greetings from Somewhere. Yes, that's what it's called. It's pretty much just Magic Treehouse, but a separate book following separate characters. And obviously written by a different author, but they go to different places in the world, and you learn about like history and geography, and it's just like set up in another easy reader kind of format. And so if your kids like Magic Treehouse and that kind of thing, I would definitely recommend checking out that series. And then if your kids are kind of more like into the fantasy realm, there is a Kingdom of Renly series. My daughter, I think, read the first couple books. At the time, she found them a little bit scary, but now she loves fantasy and like doesn't get scared by anything when she reads. So it's just something to note if you're picking the series up. Some kids that are more sensitive might be a little scared. I don't remember what'll happen. There might have been a dragon or something. I don't remember. But a little bit later in her life, like that would have been something she really enjoyed. So I think some kids would really like it and some kids might not. But I thought that one was worth mentioning because it's not something I have seen a lot of people reading. And then there's a series called Princess Pink. This is kind of, you know, going against the stereotype of princesses again. And this one has a series that is all about kind of retelling different little fairy tales and stuff. So the one she read was Little Quacking Hood. So it's a spin-off of Little Red Riding Hood. And I know they had like a Jack and the Beanstalk one. And so it was a funny retelling, especially if your kids like know these different little fairy tales and like nursery rhymes and things, and then to hear it told in a different way. I know my daughter really enjoyed that when she was reading them. And from what I remember of the Princess Pink stories, is they're a little bit of a mix between like chapter book and graphic novel. So kids feel like they're turning pages a lot, and it like I think it kind of increased my daughter's stamina for reading. So that was kind of one of the first ones I remember her like actually fully reading on her own. Like I was sitting next to her and listening to her read, but they gave her like the boost of confidence to like, oh yeah, I'm like turning pages quickly. Oh, and I just thought of one more that we own, and my kids have obviously put somewhere or are using it or whatever, and that is The Chicken Squad. So this one's about a bunch of chickens, and I don't know if they get into trouble. I think the first one is actually called Trouble with Chickens, maybe. So they probably do. It's one that I had just bought for my son a while ago, and I think he took it to look at it and then I forgot all about it. So it's one we need to read. I think my daughter read it when she was kind of going through this stage. But I know it can be a lot harder, it seems like, to find these kinds of books for boys than for girls, or maybe, I'm not sure. It seems to me to be a little bit harder. So that one was a good one. It's like a chapter book. It's not complete graphic novel, which I think some kids work well with a graphic novel at this stage of reading and some don't, because you have to figure out which order you're going in and you have to try to like not get too distracted by all the pictures. Yeah, so I'll add that one on there. And then I think this list is complete. I probably forgot some, but I would love it if you would leave some ideas of easy chapter books below. My son might pick them out, or we might use them for some other kids that are at the reading stage in coming years. And make sure you head over to Abby's channel and subscribe and watch her video. Thanks for watching, guys.